I rode 3 days after reading your letter.
Then why did you believe their lie?
The Duke of Ashford threw Catherine's letter onto the family table and demanded to know where they had hidden his wife. Her eldest brother, Lord Malcolm Vale, glanced at the crumpled page without touching it. Catherine is unwell. Anything she writes during one of her disturbances should not be taken seriously. Sebastian leaned across the table. 3 days in the saddle had left mud on his boots and blood along the inside of one glove. But exhaustion had sharpened rather than weakened his anger. She is the Duchess of Ashford. You had no right to remove her from London. She asked us to protect her from you. Malcolm opened a drawer and produced the farewell letter Sebastian had received nearly 3 months earlier. The handwriting appeared to be Catherine's. The signature had convinced him that she regretted their private marriage and considered him a means of escaping her family. Sebastian had responded with cruelty instead of questions. Before half of London, he accused Catherine of pursuing his title and announced that she would never enter Ashford House again. When her brothers collected her clothing, he allowed it. His wounded pride had made their work effortless. The genuine letter reached him only 4 days ago, hidden inside a bundle of estate accounts. It contained a sentence no forger could have invented, the private words Catherine whispered when they exchanged vows in a small chapel. If the world turns against us, ask me before you believe it. He had failed that promise. Where is she? Sebastian asked again. Malcolm poured himself a glass of brandy. Rosemere is a large estate. Search every room if your dignity requires the performance. Sebastian turned toward Captain Rowan, the only man he had brought inside. Close the gates. No carriage leaves. Malcolm's amusement disappeared. You have no authority over my property. I have authority to find my lawful wife. She no longer wishes to be your wife. Then Catherine may tell me herself. A dull thud sounded somewhere above them. Malcolm looked toward the ceiling before quickly lifting his glass. The movement was small, but Sebastian saw it. He crossed the room and pulled the bell cord. No servant appeared. Captain, search the eastern wing. Malcolm stepped into his path. You will not storm through my home, because a hysterical woman has learned how to manipulate your guilt. Sebastian struck him once. Malcolm fell against the table, sending the brandy glass across the floor. That, Sebastian said, was for calling my wife hysterical. What happens next will depend upon how quickly I find her. He followed the sound upstairs. Most rooms were unlocked and carefully prepared, as if the family expected an inspection. Fresh flowers stood beside unused beds. Fires burned in chambers no one occupied. At the end of the eastern corridor, Sebastian found a narrow door concealed behind a tapestry. It had no handle on the inside. Catherine! For one terrible moment, there was no answer. Then her voice came through the wood. Sebastian. He closed his eyes. She was alive. Stand away from the door. Captain Rowan struck the lock with the hilt of his sword. On the third blow, the frame split. Catherine stood in the center of a small room, wearing a plain grey dress. She had lost weight, and a dark bruise marked one wrist. Yet her back remained straight, and her hazel eyes were clear. Sebastian wanted to cross the room and take her into his arms. She stepped away before he could move. I received your letter, he said. Which one? The question stopped him. How many did you send? 17. He had received 2. The forged farewell and the message that finally exposed it. Catherine looked at the road dust covering his coat. You rode here? For 3 days. You believed one letter when it wounded your pride. Why should I trust you now that another has frightened you? Sebastian had imagined this meeting throughout the journey. He had prepared explanations, promises, and apologies. Under her steady gaze, every word sounded like another demand that she ease his conscience. You should not trust me, he said. Not yet. Something shifted in her expression, but it was not forgiveness. On the floor beside the bed lay several narrow strips of linen covered in tiny numbers. Catherine moved quickly to gather them. What are those? Sebastian asked. Proof that Malcolm and my uncle have been emptying the trust my mother left me. She had learned bookkeeping from her mother, the daughter of a successful shipping merchant. As a girl, Catherine could identify a false total faster than most clerks. Her family dismissed the skill as unsuitable for a lady until they needed someone to notice what they had stolen. When they brought the household ledgers for Malcolm to sign, I copied the payment amounts onto cloth, she explained. Paper could be found and burned. They never searched the hems of my dresses. Sebastian picked up one strip. Several large payments had been made to a company called Rose Trading. Does that company exist? Only on these pages. It receives money from my trust, then returns part of it to Malcolm through false rent collections. Why keep you alive? My signature is required to release the final portion of my inheritance when I turn 25. That is 12 days from now. They intend to declare me mentally incapable before then. Once the court accepts their physician's statement, Malcolm will control the trust permanently. Sebastian looked at the bruise on her wrist. Did they force you to sign anything? Not yet. A key turned in the lock behind them. Sebastian reached the door, but it would not open. Footsteps hurried away along the corridor. Catherine's face changed. Move the bed away from the wall. Smoke began pouring beneath the door. Captain Rowan shouted from the other side, followed by the sound of steel striking wood. The corridor had been blocked with a heavy cabinet. Sebastian removed his coat and pressed it against the gap beneath the door. Catherine pulled the linen strips from her dress and placed them inside a small metal medicine box. The window, he said. It is sealed. He seized a chair and smashed it against the glass. Iron bars stood beyond the broken panes. The smoke thickened. Below them, men shouted in the courtyard, but no one brought water. Malcolm was not trying merely to frighten Catherine. He intended to destroy her, the copied accounts, and the husband whose testimony could prove she had been held against her will. Sebastian tore a curtain from its hooks and wrapped it around Catherine's shoulders. If Rowan cannot reach us, I will break the bars. You are bleeding. A shard of glass had cut his forearm. Catherine bound it quickly with a strip from her sleeve. Even now, she was protecting the man who had failed to protect her. Sebastian looked toward the door. Flames appeared beneath the lower edge. Then Catherine noticed something strange. The smoke carried the sharp scent of lamp oil, but the fire was not spreading from the corridor into the room. It was moving in the opposite direction. She crossed to the fireplace and touched the wall beside it. This room is not the target, she said. The fire began below us. What is beneath this chamber? The family records room. The truth struck them together. Malcolm did not need Catherine dead, not yet. He still required her signature before her birthday. The locked door and smoke were meant to keep her from reaching the ledgers, while the original evidence burned below. The rescue had drawn Sebastian to Rosemere exactly when Malcolm needed a witness to blame. Catherine looked at the sealed medicine box containing her linen records. My letter did not merely bring you to me, she said. It gave my family the perfect man to accuse of setting the fire. Sebastian struck the iron bars with the broken chair, but they did not move. Outside the door, Captain Rowan continued battering the cabinet, blocking the corridor. The smoke grew thicker, forcing Catherine and Sebastian toward the floor. There is another way out, Catherine said. She pulled aside the rug beside the fireplace and revealed a narrow iron ring set into the floorboards. Sebastian dragged it upward. Beneath was a servant's stair, barely wide enough for one person. How did you know this was here? I spent every childhood summer at Rosemere. Malcolm locked me in this room because he believed I had forgotten the house. The lower steps glowed orange. The passage descended directly toward the burning records room. We cannot go down there, Sebastian said. We do not need to. Catherine reached through the opening and found a small wooden latch beneath the upper step. A section of wall beside the fireplace swung inward, revealing a horizontal passage leading toward the rear staircase. Sebastian stared at her. My grandmother used it to avoid creditors, Catherine explained. My family's pride has always required hidden exits. She entered first, carrying the metal box against her chest. Sebastian followed and pulled the panel shut behind them. The passage was dark, but fresh air moved through cracks in the stone. Halfway along, Catherine stopped. Voices sounded beyond the wall. Malcolm was speaking to someone in the rear corridor. Let the Duke's captain find them. Ashford must survive long enough to be questioned. And Catherine? Another man asked. The smoke will weaken her. When she wakes, Dr. Harcourt will certify that the strain has destroyed what remained of her reason. Sebastian's hand closed around his sword. Catherine caught his wrist. If you confront him now, he will deny every word. He has imprisoned you and set fire to the house. And he has prepared witnesses who will claim you caused the fire during a violent search. Sebastian wanted action. Catherine needed proof. For the first time, he allowed her judgment to govern his anger. They continued through the passage and emerged inside an unused linen cupboard near the back stairs. A young housemaid stood outside filling buckets. When she saw Catherine, the bucket slipped from her hands. "Your Grace." Catherine recognized Lucy Martin, the daughter of Rosemere's former bookkeeper. Lucy had smuggled food upstairs during the first weeks of Catherine's confinement. "Did you send my last letter?" Catherine asked. Lucy nodded. "I hid it in the accounts sent to Ashford. Lord Malcolm dismissed my father after he questioned the trust payments. I knew his Grace must see them." Her loyalty had existed before any promise of reward. She had risked dismissal and imprisonment simply because she knew Catherine was being wronged. "Then you saved my life," Catherine said. Lucy looked toward the smoke. Lord Malcolm ordered the servants to remove the silver before sounding the fire bell. He said the records room was already lost. The family had protected its valuables while allowing the evidence to burn. Catherine handed Lucy the metal box. "Take this through the kitchen garden and give it only to Captain Rowan. Tell him not to return it to the Duke unless I am present." Sebastian heard the condition and did not object. Lucy concealed the box beneath a pile of folded sheets and hurried away. Catherine and Sebastian reached the courtyard as servants finally carried water toward the eastern wing. Malcolm stood near the fountain with soot carefully smeared across one sleeve, directing men who had received no useful instruction. When he saw Catherine alive, his face went blank, only for a heartbeat. Then he shouted, "Thank God, my sister lives." He crossed the courtyard as if to embrace her. Catherine stepped behind Sebastian. Malcolm stopped. The fire began moments after Ashford forced his way into the house. He announced loudly. "Several servants saw him threaten me." Sebastian moved forward. But Catherine spoke first. "The fire began in the records room. Why did you lock me in the chamber above it?" "I locked no door." "Then someone acted without your knowledge." "That appears so." "Will you permit Captain Rowan to question every servant?" Malcolm's gaze sharpened. "This is my estate, and those were records belonging to my trust. They were family papers. They included 6 years of payments made in my name. If the accounts were honest, their destruction has harmed you as much as me." Malcolm said nothing. A carriage entered the courtyard, carrying Dr. Harcourt, the physician Malcolm had mentioned in the passage. He arrived too quickly to have been summoned after the fire began. Harcourt stepped down, holding a leather medical case. "I was told Lady Catherine had become violent." Sebastian's expression turned cold. "She is the Duchess of Ashford." The physician bowed slightly. "That title may be one of her delusions." Several servants looked away. Catherine understood the trap. Malcolm had spent months calling her unstable. Now Harcourt would claim that confinement had been medical care, not imprisonment. Sebastian's forceful arrival and the fire would be presented as consequences of a disturbed woman manipulating her husband. Harcourt approached her. "Lady Catherine, I must examine you." "No, your brother has legal responsibility for your care. My husband is standing beside me." The physician looked towards Sebastian. "Your marriage is disputed. Lord Malcolm has provided a letter in which she denies entering it willingly." The forged farewell had become more than a personal betrayal. Malcolm intended to use it to challenge the marriage itself. If the court declared Catherine incapable before the wedding, Sebastian would lose his legal standing to protect her, while Malcolm would retain control of her inheritance. Sebastian reached for her hand. Catherine did not take it. "I will leave Rosemere," she said, "but I will not go to Ashford House, as though I have simply been restored to your possession." His hand fell to his side. "What do you require?" "A separate residence under my control. Lucy comes with me. Captain Rowan guards the account records, not you, and no statement is issued in my name without my approval." Malcolm laughed. "Listen to her. She is issuing commands while the house burns." "No," Sebastian said. "She is setting terms. I accept every one." Catherine met his eyes. "That does not mean I forgive you." "I understand. Do you? Because I will expose Malcolm even if the evidence also proves how willingly you condemned me." The word struck him, but he bowed his head. "Then expose us both." For the first time, Catherine believed he might be prepared to hear the truth. A county magistrate arrived before the fire was extinguished. Malcolm handed him the forged farewell letter and accused Sebastian of entering Rosemere by force, assaulting him, and destroying records belonging to the Vale family. The magistrate ordered everyone to remain on the estate until the cause of the fire was determined. Catherine could not simply leave. Her marriage, freedom, inheritance, and sanity were now matters of legal dispute. Captain Rowan returned, carrying the metal box. The linen strips inside had survived, but the magistrate examined them skeptically. Numbers copied onto cloth prove very little without the original books. Catherine lifted one strip. They prove more than you think. Every payment includes a date, an amount, and the initials of the clerk who recorded it. Malcolm smiled. The clerk is dead. Lucy stepped forward. No, my lord. The initials belong to my father. The courtyard fell silent. Catherine looked at Malcolm. He had claimed Lucy's father was dismissed years before the suspicious payments began. Yet the copied accounts showed his initials on transactions made only 6 weeks ago. Either the records were false, or Malcolm had secretly continued using the very bookkeeper he publicly accused of dishonesty. Lucy's father was alive, and he knew where the missing money had gone. Malcolm recovered first. Lucy Martin's father fled Rosemere after stealing from the estate. If he is alive, he is a criminal, not a witness. Lucy's face flushed. My father never stole anything. Then where is he? I do not know. The answer weakened her testimony, and Malcolm knew it. The magistrate ordered the eastern wing sealed and assigned 2 constables to guard Catherine's linen records. Until the fire was investigated, no one could remove documents or leave Rosemere without permission. Dr. Harcourt immediately requested private access to Catherine. She has endured smoke, confinement, and emotional agitation, he told the magistrate. An examination is essential. Catherine refused again, but Malcolm produced a document naming him temporary guardian of her person. It claimed she had suffered violent delusions for nearly a year. The signature at the bottom appeared to belong to Catherine. Sebastian looked at her. Is that yours? No. This time, he did not hesitate. Then it will be examined before anyone acts upon it. Malcolm's mouth tightened. 3 months earlier, Sebastian would have treated Catherine's denial as another convenient claim. Now, he asked the magistrate to place the guardianship order with the disputed evidence. Harcourt was still permitted to observe her, but not to examine or medicate her without consent. It was a small victory. Catherine used it immediately. If Dr. Harcourt has treated me for nearly a year, he must possess medical records. The physician's confidence flickered. My notes are confidential. You have already described my supposed condition publicly. Produce the dates on which you examined me. Harcourt opened his leather case and removed a narrow appointment book. It recorded 9 visits with Catherine, including 2 during the previous winter. She studied the entries. On January 18th, I was attending Lady Winslow's wedding in Bath. More than 80 guests saw me. Harcourt glanced at Malcolm. Catherine turned another page. And on February 3rd, I spent the entire day at Ashford's estate office reviewing tenant leases. Sebastian remembered it. Catherine had found an error, saving 3 families from eviction. He had praised her attention then, before suspicion made the same skill seem threatening. I was with her, he said. Harcourt closed the book. Dates may have been copied incorrectly. 1 incorrect date is carelessness, Catherine replied. 9 invented visits are fraud. The magistrate took the appointment book into evidence. Malcolm stepped toward the physician. You assured me your records were complete. The words escaped before he could stop them. Catherine heard the possessive claim beneath them. Harcourt's records had been prepared for Malcolm, not as a genuine history of medical care. Their alliance had gained access to her freedom through the guardianship order. Now its first visible support had begun to crack. That afternoon, the fire was finally extinguished. The records room had been destroyed, but Catherine asked permission to inspect the remains. The magistrate allowed it under guard. Sebastian attempted to accompany her. No, she said. He stopped at the doorway. You entered Rosemere by force to reach me. Malcolm is already claiming I control your decisions. I need the court to see that I can investigate without hiding behind your authority. He wanted to argue. Instead, he stepped back. Catherine entered with Lucy and 1 constable. Charred shelves leaned against blackened walls. Most account books had collapsed into ash, yet fire never destroyed a room evenly. Catherine searched beneath the heavy oak desk, where fallen plaster had smothered part of the flames. She found a burned leather pouch containing brass counting tokens. Rosemere clerks used them when transferring sealed account boxes between rooms. Each token carried a date on one side and a storage number on the other. 1 token was unusually clean. Catherine lifted it with a piece of cloth. The date stamped into the brass was yesterday. The number referred to the account box containing her trust records. Why would a counting token be issued yesterday? Lucy asked. Because someone removed the box before setting the fire. The records had not been destroyed. Malcolm had moved them. Catherine examined the token's edge. A trace of pale green sealing sand remained inside the engraved number. Rosemere normally used red sand to dry ink and prevent documents from smearing. Who uses green? She asked. Lucy thought for a moment. The old estate office at Fenwick Mill, her father's former office. Malcolm had dismissed Mr. Martin publicly, but continued using him or holding him at the mill to prepare false accounts away from the main house. Catherine concealed the token in her glove before the constable could notice. It was not yet safe to surrender every clue. The magistrate seemed honourable, but one of his men had spoken privately with Malcolm twice since arriving. Near the collapsed cabinet, Catherine found fragments of burned paper. Most crumbled when touched. One remained protected beneath a metal drawer. Only 3 words were legible. Ashford House transfer. The payment scheme extended beyond her own inheritance. Someone had moved money through an account connected to Sebastian's London residence. That could make him appear to be Malcolm's partner, or prove that Malcolm intended to ruin the Duke after invalidating their marriage. Catherine folded the fragment into her handkerchief. When she emerged, Sebastian was waiting where she had left him. "Did you find anything?" "Yes." She showed him the burned fragment, but kept the brass token hidden. His face changed when he read the words. "I have never authorized payments from Ashford House to your family. Who manages the London household accounts?" "My secretary, Mr. Pritchard." "Who recommended him?" Sebastian already knew the answer. Malcolm. The family had not merely hidden Catherine. They had placed a loyal man inside Sebastian's household before sending the forged farewell letter. While the Duke publicly denounced his wife, Malcolm's secretary gained uninterrupted access to Ashford's accounts and correspondence. Sebastian turned toward the stable. "I will send Rowan to arrest Pritchard." "No. If Pritchard realizes we are suspicious, he will destroy the remaining records." "Then what do you suggest?" "We send him instructions he believes came from Malcolm." Catherine requested ordinary writing paper, green sealing sand, and a sample of Malcolm's correspondence. She did not forge his signature. Instead, she copied the short numerical code used in the margins of the linen records. The message contained no names. "Move the final balance from the London house before the 25th. Bring the original receipts to Fenwick." If Pritchard obeyed, they could follow him to the missing account books and Lucy's father. The magistrate agreed to send the message through a neutral courier. Catherine watched him seal it in front of 3 witnesses. By evening, she had protected herself from Harcourt's examination, proved his medical history false, discovered that the records survived, and created a way to draw Malcolm's hidden accomplice into the open. Malcolm watched from the upper gallery as the courier left Rosemere. For the first time, his confidence gave way to calculation. He called Dr. Harcourt into the library and shut the door. "The fire should have frightened her into silence," Harcourt said. "You still do not understand my sister," Malcolm replied. "The more we take from Catherine, the more carefully she counts what remains." He looked through the window toward the guest cottage, where she would sleep under guard. "She is no longer merely a woman we must control." His voice fell to a whisper. "She is the only person capable of proving the entire scheme." Malcolm did not wait for Catherine's trap to close. Before dawn, he sent a statement to the county magistrate, claiming she had stolen private family records, forged a message in his name, and persuaded the Duke of Ashford to interfere with Rosemere's lawful accounts. By breakfast, 2 constables stood outside the guest cottage, and Catherine was forbidden to communicate with anyone except under supervision. Sebastian arrived moments later, furious. "Malcolm's secretary has left for London," he said. Rowan saw him take the Western Road. Catherine looked toward the constables. Then our message succeeded. One of the men immediately stepped away, clearly intending to report the news. Catherine lowered her voice. "Do not stop him. If Malcolm believes we know which road Pritchard took, he will send someone to warn Fenwick Mill." Sebastian understood. "And Rowan will follow the messenger." Precisely. Catherine had solved the first problem, but Malcolm quickly created another. At noon, the magistrate summoned everyone to the drawing room, where Dr. Harcourt presented a written opinion, declaring Catherine mentally unstable. He claimed she suffered from obsessive counting, suspicion of relatives, and an inability to accept that her marriage had ended. Lady Catherine's belief in an elaborate financial conspiracy is itself evidence of delusion, he announced. Malcolm stood beside him wearing an expression of sorrow. My sister has always been clever. Unfortunately, cleverness can give madness a more convincing voice. Several servants lowered their eyes, ashamed but unwilling to challenge him. Catherine walked to the table and placed Harcourt's appointment book beside his medical statement. Yesterday, Doctor, Harcourt admitted that the dates in this book may be incorrect. Today, he relies upon the same invented examinations to declare me incapable. Which record should the court believe? Harcourt's jaw tightened. My professional judgment does not depend upon a single clerical error. Then perhaps it depends upon payment. Catherine removed the burned paper fragment marked Ashford House Transfer and showed it to the magistrate. Money connected to my husband's London residence passed through Rosemere's accounts. Dr. Harcourt, have you received payments from either household? No, not under your own name, perhaps. What was your mother's maiden name? The physician went pale. That question is irrelevant. Your appointment book contains the initials E, H, beside every supposed visit to me. Those are not my initials. They belong to Elizabeth Harcourt, your mother. Malcolm paid you through an account opened in her name. The magistrate demanded supporting evidence. Catherine opened the metal box and removed one linen strip. She had copied a series of payments to E, H, each made within 24 hours of Harcourt's fabricated examinations. The amounts increased whenever his statements became more severe. Malcolm immediately claimed Catherine had invented the numbers after the fire. She possesses no original ledger, he said. These scraps of cloth prove only that my sister knows how to embroider a convincing lie. The insult shifted attention away from Harcourt and toward Catherine. It was exactly what Malcolm wanted. He had transformed her achievement, preserving the financial trail into evidence of obsession. Yet Catherine remained calm. The linen records include the bank draft numbers. A person inventing amounts might guess dates, but she could not guess 12 separate serial marks held by the county bank. The magistrate agreed to summon the bank manager. It was another measurable victory, but it increased the danger to everyone helping her. That evening, Captain Rowan returned with a prisoner. He had followed Malcolm's messenger to a ruined toll house near Fenwick Mill and intercepted him before he could warn Pritchard. Inside the man's coat, Rowan found a note ordering the mill burned and the old clerk removed before sunrise. Lucy began to cry. My father is there. Rowan prepared 6 men to ride immediately, but Malcolm stepped into the courtyard, holding a pistol against Lucy's throat. He had slipped through a servant's passage, while the constables were distracted by the returning captain. Put down your weapons, he ordered, or the girl dies before anyone reaches the gate. Sebastian reached for his sword. Catherine stopped him. Lucy's terror was real, and Malcolm's hand was shaking. A sudden movement would kill her. What do you want? Catherine asked. The linen copies and the brass token you took from the records room. Catherine felt Sebastian look at her. She had not told him about the token. Malcolm's knowledge confirmed that one of the magistrate's constables had searched the ashes after her inspection and reported what was missing. Release Lucy first. Do you imagine you are negotiating from strength? If you kill her, every servant here will testify against you. They have watched me control Rosemere all their lives. They will remember their loyalty. Catherine looked at the assembled household. No one spoke. Fear had kept them obedient for years. She opened the metal box and removed the linen strips. Catherine, Sebastian said quietly, if you surrender those, Malcolm destroys the only surviving account trail. Lucy's life is not an acceptable price for evidence. She placed the strips on the ground between them. Malcolm ordered Harcourt to collect them. Catherine then removed the brass token from her glove. This too. Harcourt crossed the courtyard, took the evidence, and returned to Malcolm's side. Only then did Malcolm shove Lucy away. She ran to Catherine, who wrapped both arms around her. Malcolm retreated into the stable with Harcourt and barred the doors. Smoke soon rose through the roof as they burned the linen strips and token inside an iron bucket. Sebastian watched months of Catherine's work turn to ash. You knew he would destroy them. Yes. Then how can we prove the payments? Catherine looked at Lucy. By saving the person who wrote them. The magistrate finally ordered Malcolm's arrest, but when constables forced open the stable, they found only Harcourt. Malcolm had escaped through a drainage tunnel leading toward the river. Harcourt claimed Malcolm forced him to participate in everything. Catherine knew the physician would continue changing his account until he discovered which story protected him best. She asked that he be held separately and rode toward Fenwick Mill with Rowan, Sebastian, Lucy, and the magistrate. They arrived before sunrise. Pritchard had already reached the mill and set fire to a storage shed, but Catherine recognized that the wind would carry the flames toward the office. She directed the men to tear down a wooden fence, creating a gap that stopped the fire from crossing the yard. Inside the locked office, they found Lucy's father alive, weak from confinement, but guarding 3 boxes of original accounts. Mr. Martin explained that Malcolm had forced him to prepare false entries by threatening Lucy. For months, he secretly marked each fraudulent payment with a grain of green sealing sand pressed beneath the wax. The false transfers can still be identified, he said, but Lord Malcolm made me use the Duke of Ashford's authorization on every one. Sebastian stared at the boxes. I authorize no transfers. Mr. Martin studied him with tired eyes. Then you must examine your own signature, Your Grace, because I watched your secretary bring the documents from Ashford House. Catherine placed 1 genuine transfer and 1 disputed transfer before her husband. The signatures appeared identical. The first time Catherine warned him about a letter, Sebastian chose wounded pride instead of verification. Now, he had another chance to examine a document bearing his name before deciding whom to believe. Sebastian examined the 2 documents beneath the mill's smoky lamplight. The disputed signature was not forged. The pressure, angle, and slight break in the final stroke belonged to him. Catherine watched recognition enter his face. "You remember signing it," she said. He did, though the memory shamed him. 2 days after receiving Catherine's forged farewell, Sebastian had ordered his secretary to remove her name from several household accounts. Pritchard brought him a stack of authorizations, some incomplete, and Sebastian signed them without reading, because anger made every delay feel like another humiliation. "I signed several blank pages," he admitted quietly. Pritchard said the clerks would fill in routine amounts later. Mr. Martin opened the first account box. Those pages were used to move money from Ashford House into Rose Trading. Lord Malcolm then returned part of the funds through Catherine's trust, so every theft appeared to involve both husband and wife. The scheme was more dangerous than stealing her inheritance. Malcolm had woven Sebastian's genuine signature through the false transfers, ensuring that exposing one fraud would implicate the Duke of Ashford in another. The magistrate asked Sebastian to provide an immediate sworn statement, admitting that he signed incomplete documents. Before he could answer, horses arrived outside the mill. A court officer entered carrying a sealed order from London. Malcolm had filed a petition claiming that Catherine and Sebastian conspired to empty the Vale Trust, manufacture evidence, and burn Rosemere when their theft was discovered. The petition included copies of the transfers bearing Sebastian's signature and a statement from Pritchard asserting that Catherine personally instructed him to prepare them. "That is impossible," Catherine said. "I was imprisoned at Rosemere." The officer looked at her calmly. "Lord Malcolm states you remained in voluntary seclusion and communicated through servants." Lucy stepped forward. "She was locked inside that room. You are her personal maid, and therefore not considered impartial." Mr. Martin offered to testify, but the officer regarded the imprisoned bookkeeper with equal suspicion. Every loyal witness had already been discredited before being heard. The order required Catherine to surrender the trust records and appear before a London commission. Until then, she would be confined at Rosemere under family supervision. Sebastian tore the paper in half. "She will not return to Malcolm's custody. If you obstruct this order," the officer warned, "the Crown may freeze every Ashford account named in these transfers. Your household, tenants, and creditors would be unable to receive payment until the investigation ends." Sebastian looked at the 3 account boxes. Ashford supported hundreds of families. If its accounts were frozen at the beginning of harvest, wages would stop, grain purchases would fail, and tenants already living close to hunger would pay the price for his negligence. Catherine understood the danger, but she also understood the choice before him. "Tell him about the blank authorizations," she said. "Do it now, before Pritchard's lie becomes the official account." The court officer unfolded a second paper. "You should consider your answer carefully, Your Grace," Admitting that you signed incomplete financial documents may cause the Commission to declare you incapable of managing Ashford's unentailed property. Sebastian imagined Malcolm using that admission to seize control of Catherine's trust while Ashford fell into legal paralysis. "I need time to question Pritchard," he said. Catherine's expression changed. "Pritchard is Malcolm's man. You already know what he will say. I know the signatures are mine. I do not yet know how the documents reached Rosemere. You signed blank pages and gave them to the secretary. Malcolm selected. That proves carelessness, not the entire conspiracy. It proves how he gained access. Your admission would support Mr. Martin's testimony." The officer waited. "Will you swear that Lady Catherine had no access to these documents?" Sebastian could truthfully say that he never gave them to her, but Catherine had once used his study and knew where official papers were kept. If he made an absolute statement, the Commission might accuse him of lying for his wife. If he refused, suspicion would remain on her. He chose caution. "I will give no sworn statement until I have examined the London records." Catherine stared at him. The silence between them became heavier than anger. "You rode for 3 days because my letter finally frightened you," she said. "But when truth threatens your authority, you still ask me to wait inside someone else's prison. I am trying to prevent Ashford from being frozen, and I am the price you have chosen to pay for that protection." Sebastian reached for her. She stepped away. The court officer ordered Catherine taken back to Rosemere. Sebastian demanded neutral custody, and the magistrate persuaded the officer to confine her at a nearby hunting lodge guarded by county constables rather than Malcolm's servants. He told himself it was a compromise that kept her safe. Catherine saw it as the same betrayal, wearing more respectful clothing. Before entering the carriage, she turned to Lucy. "Go with your father. Copy every account into 3 separate books. Give one to the magistrate, one to Captain Rowan, and hide the third where no Ashford or Vale servant can reach it." Sebastian said, "Catherine, I will come for you as soon as I find Pritchard. Do not come for me again. Find the truth because it is the truth, not because you expect gratitude when you open another locked door." The carriage carried her away. Sebastian stood beside the mill, holding the unsigned statement that could have supported her innocence. "Mr.?" Martin closed the account boxes. "Your Grace, Lord Malcolm counted on you, fearing scandal more than you feared injustice." Sebastian looked toward the departing carriage. "I have not abandoned her." The old bookkeeper's reply was merciless. "Then why is she leaving under guard while the man who framed her remains free?" Catherine reached the hunting lodge before noon. It contained 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and barred windows hidden behind embroidered curtains. She was no longer fighting to restore her marriage. She would establish her legal competence, secure her inheritance, and expose Malcolm whether Sebastian stood beside her or among the men asking her to wait. That evening, the magistrate permitted her to examine the inventory removed from Rosemere's burned records room. Among the objects was a small parcel of unused green sealing sand. The paper around it carried a shipping mark from Harrogate Station and a delivery date 3 months earlier the same week. Pritchard brought Sebastian the blank authorizations. Catherine turned the wrapper over and discovered a second address written beneath the fold, a private office beside the London Commission that would judge her sanity. Malcolm had been sending payments directly to someone inside the body, deciding her fate. She asked for writing materials, but a constable entered and took the parcel away. "New instructions," he said. "No documents are to remain in your possession." "Whose instructions?" "The Commission's physician." Catherine felt cold. "Dr. Harcourt is under detention." "Not Dr. Harcourt. His replacement arrives tomorrow." The constable handed her a formal notice. The physician appointed to examine Catherine was Sir Alistair Crane, the same man whose initials appeared beside the largest payment, copied from Malcolm's destroyed ledger. The examination would occur at 9 in the morning. If Crane declared her incapable, Malcolm could take control of her trust before the financial records were ever heard. Catherine had less than 18 hours to prove that the man judging her had already been paid. Catherine read Sir Alistair Crane's name a second time. The payment beside his initials had been unusually large, £800, divided into 4 equal transfers. Malcolm had hidden each payment beneath the cost of repairing tenant cottages that had never been repaired. She remembered the dates because 3 of those cottages belonged to widows who had written asking why rain still poured through their roofs. The fraud had harmed real people long before it reached her. "May I speak to the magistrate?" she asked. The constable shook his head. "He has returned to the mill." "Then allow me to write to him." "My orders forbid correspondence." Catherine looked toward the barred window. Malcolm did not need to break into the lodge. He already controlled the physician, the commission, and at least one constable assigned to guard her. She folded the examination notice carefully. "Will Sir Alistair examine me here?" "Yes, alone, with 2 commission clerks, men selected and paid by the same people, trying to declare her incapable." Catherine sat beside the cold fireplace and forced herself to think. The green ceiling sand wrapper had been taken, and her copied linen records were burned. But Malcolm's men had preserved one thing they believed proved her guilt. Dr. Harcourt's false appointment book. The book recorded payments only through initials, yet the dates aligned with the trust transfers. If Crane's payments followed the same method, Harcourt's records might contain a reference to him. Catherine asked for Dr. Harcourt. The constable laughed. "He is imprisoned at the mill." "Then tell him Sir Alistair Crane has been appointed to replace him." The man's amusement disappeared. Catherine saw that he recognized the name. "You were not told to prevent me from speaking to another prisoner," she continued. "If you refuse, I shall state during tomorrow's examination that you concealed information from the commission." The constable left without answering. 2 hours later, Dr. Harcourt was brought to the hunting lodge in chains. His arrogance had disappeared. Without Malcolm's protection, he looked like a frightened man, searching for the least painful version of the truth. Catherine placed the examination notice before him. "Sir Alistair will testify that you acted alone. Once I am declared incapable, Malcolm no longer needs you." Harcourt read the name and went pale. He promised Crane would never become involved. "Then you know him." The physician sat heavily. "Crane introduced me to Lord Malcolm. He arranged the language used in the guardianship petition." "Where are his payments recorded?" "I never saw them." Catherine remained silent. Harcourt looked toward the door, then lowered his voice. "Malcolm kept a black memorandum book. Not the estate ledger, the book he carried in his coat. Crane's name was written as the Falcon." "Where is that book?" "Malcolm took it when he escaped." "Then your information cannot help me." "I can testify. Yesterday you testified that I was mad. Today you will say the man replacing you is corrupt. The commission will call you desperate." Harcourt's shoulders sagged. Then Catherine noticed the brass clasp on his medical case. A strip of paper was trapped beneath it. "Open the case." The constable objected, but Harcourt nodded. Inside were medicine bottles, folded reports, and a packet of printed guardianship forms. Each form carried a small identifying number in the lower corner. The number matched an entry Catherine remembered from her linen copies. 417C. "What does this mark mean?" she asked. Harcourt hesitated. Crane's private office printed the forms. Every physician in his circle received a numbered packet. The same number had appeared beside one of Malcolm's £800 transfers. It was not merely a payment reference. It connected Crane's office directly to the financial records. Catherine removed one blank form. The constable took it from her. "Nothing leaves this room. It does not need to. You have now seen it." He looked unsettled. "What is your name?" Catherine asked. "Daniel Price." "Mr. Price, tomorrow you may repeat Malcolm's instructions and help imprison an innocent woman. Or you may remember that the paper in your hand connects Sir Alistair Crane to the man paying him." Price stared at the printed number. Fear fought with conscience across his face. Finally, he returned the form to Harcourt's case and left the room without another word. At the mill, Sebastian received word that Catherine's examination had been moved forward to 7 in the morning. He had still not signed the statement admitting his negligence. Captain Rowan placed the document before him. "Every hour you delay strengthens Malcolm's accusation. If I sign, the commission may freeze Ashford's accounts." "It already has." Sebastian looked up sharply. A London courier had arrived with orders suspending all payments from Ashford House. Pritchard claimed the Duke had used household money to assist Catherine's fraud, and Sebastian's refusal to explain the blank signatures was being treated as concealment. The choice meant to preserve his authority had cost him that authority anyway. Wages could not be paid. Grain deliveries were stopped. Creditors had been notified. Within days, servants would be dismissed, and tenant families would lose essential supplies. Sebastian had sacrificed Catherine's freedom to protect Ashford, and still brought Ashford to the edge of collapse. He signed the statement, not privately. He summoned the household servants, the county magistrate, Mr. Martin, and every tenant representative within riding distance. Before them all, Sebastian admitted that he had signed incomplete documents after receiving the forged farewell letter. "I did not examine the papers because I was angry with my wife," he said. "I gave Malcolm's secretary access to my name, my accounts, and my authority. Lady Catherine warned me to seek the truth, and I chose delay when the truth threatened my pride. The admission would reach London before nightfall, but Catherine's examination began at dawn. Sebastian ordered Rowan to prepare horses. The magistrate stopped him. "If you ride to the lodge, Crane will claim Lady Catherine's husband intimidated the commission. Then I will remain outside. You cannot solve this by arriving dramatically again." The rebuke was deserved. Sebastian turned to Mr. Martin. "What can Catherine use without me?" "The cottage repair accounts. Crane's payments were hidden inside them. The original books are here, but if the commission accepts them from you, Malcolm will claim you altered them." Lucy stepped forward. "The widows whose cottages were never repaired can identify the false entries. They were independent witnesses with visible roofs, unpaid bills, and no connection to Ashford's disputed transfers. Catherine had protected them months earlier, before they knew their testimony would matter." Rowan left immediately to bring the three women to the hunting lodge. At 6:30 the next morning, Sir Alistair Crane arrived in a polished black carriage. He wore an expensive grey coat and carried no medical bag. 2 commission clerks followed him inside. Catherine sat beside the window, calm and fully dressed. Crane looked around the barred room. "Your family has gone to considerable trouble to protect you from yourself." "My family went to considerable trouble to place you here." His smile thinned. He began with simple questions: her name, age, title, and the date. Catherine answered each one. He then asked why she believed her brother was stealing from her. "Because the accounts prove it." "The accounts you copied onto your clothing?" "Yes." "Do you often conceal messages in your dresses?" "When my letters are intercepted and my room is searched." One clerk wrote rapidly. The other did not look at her. Crane intended to transform every reasonable act of resistance into a symptom. A knock sounded at the door. Daniel Price entered carrying Harcourt's medical case. "Sir." This was delivered for the examination. Crane saw the numbered forms inside and froze. Catherine noticed. So did the clerk who had not looked at her. Before Crane could remove the papers, horses stopped outside. Rowan had arrived with the cottage widows and their unpaid repair notices. Catherine stood. "I will submit to your examination after you explain why your private form number appears beside money stolen in the names of these women." Crane closed the medical case. "This interview is over." He ordered the clerks to declare Catherine uncooperative and left the lodge before the witnesses could enter. The retreat gave Catherine what she needed: a visible contradiction. An honest physician would have examined the accusation. A paid one fled from it. But Malcolm had anticipated even this failure. A messenger arrived from London, carrying a sealed ruling already signed by 2 commission members. It declared Catherine incapable, based upon Crane's written report dated the previous evening, hours before he examined her. The ruling granted Malcolm immediate control of her trust. At noon, every remaining pound would be transferred to a foreign account and placed beyond the English court's reach. Catherine had proved how the decision was corrupted. Now she had 4 hours to stop its consequences. Catherine did not waste time protesting the ruling. "Which bank holds the trust?" she asked Mr. Martin. "Weatherby and Sons in London." "Can Malcolm transfer the money with the commission's order alone?" "He will also need the trust's original release certificate. Your mother designed the settlement carefully. The bank cannot move the final balance without that certificate and the guardian's seal." "Where is the certificate?" Mr. Martin looked toward Lucy. "Your mother gave it to me before she died. When Lord Malcolm began altering the accounts, I hid it." Lucy's eyes widened. "Where?" "Inside the binding of Mrs. Vale's household recipe book." Catherine knew the book. It remained in the morning room at Rosemere, on a shelf Malcolm considered too domestic to examine. If the certificate stayed hidden, the transfer could not legally proceed. But Malcolm had found the black memorandum book, stolen seals, and Sebastian's signed authorizations. He might have discovered the certificate's existence, even if he did not know its location. "We must reach Rosemere before his men search the morning room," Catherine said. The London ruling allowed Malcolm to control her trust, but it did not authorize Catherine's continued confinement. Sir Alistair's departure had also removed the only physician claiming she required immediate restraint. Daniel Price unlocked the lodge door. "The county magistrate has not ordered me to release you," he said. "Nor has he ordered you to hold me." Price looked at the ruling, then at the numbered forms inside Harcourt's case. "I never saw you leave," he said. For the first time since her family hid her in the country, Catherine walked out of a locked house, without a man claiming the right to decide where she belonged. She did not go to Ashford House or ask Sebastian for protection. She travelled with Lucy, her father, the 3 cottage widows, and Captain Rowan to the village schoolhouse near Rosemere. The school was supported by a small fund Catherine's mother had established outside the disputed trust. Malcolm could not close it, and Sebastian held no authority over it. The schoolhouse became Catherine's independent base. Mr. Martin spread the surviving account books across the teacher's desk. The widows brought repair notices marked as paid, though no work had been completed. Lucy copied every entry into 3 separate statements, while Rowan posted guards outside. Catherine matched each false repair payment to the 4 transfers made to Sir Alistair Crane. The method was consistent. Malcolm inflated repair costs by £200, paid a small amount to a local supplier, and sent the remainder through Rose Trading. From there, the money entered an account labelled Falcon Consulting. Crane was the Falcon. Daniel Price arrived with the numbered guardianship form, sealed inside a magistrate's evidence envelope. His sworn statement described Crane's reaction when he saw it. The payment trail now had an independent witness, original records, and documented custody. Catherine instructed Rowan to take 1 copy to the county court, and Mr. Martin to carry another to Weatherby and Sons. Lucy hid the 3rd beneath the school's foundation stone. No single fire could destroy the truth again. Sebastian reached the schoolhouse shortly after 9. He did not enter. Catherine found him waiting near the gate, exactly as he had been instructed by Rowan. He carried the public statement, admitting his responsibility for the blank signatures. "I should have signed this at the mill," he said. "Yes, I believed delaying would protect Ashford, and instead, you permitted Malcolm's lie to become stronger." Yes, there was no defense in his voice, which made Catherine's anger harder to hold and more dangerous to release. Sebastian handed her a second document. It transferred control of every account connected to Catherine's trust into the hands of an independent solicitor until the court ruled on her competence. "I cannot transfer what is not yours," she said. "This concerns Ashford's claim over funds moved through my household. I have withdrawn that claim entirely. If you do this, the estate cannot recover the money Malcolm stole from your accounts. It may recover it later through the criminal court. Your inheritance should not remain exposed, because I fear a financial loss." Catherine studied him. He had finally chosen truth when it cost him something. But one correct choice did not erase 2 betrayals. "I will accept your cooperation under 3 conditions," she said. "You will not enter Rosemere before me. You will not speak for me at the bank. And when this ends, you will publicly correct every accusation you made after receiving the forged farewell." "I agree." "You have not heard the final condition." Sebastian waited. "You will give me a legal residence separate from Ashford House and renounce any claim to manage my personal income. Whether our marriage continues will be decided afterward." Pain crossed his face. "I agree. You say that quickly, because my agreement should not depend upon whether you choose me." Catherine looked away before he could see the effect of those words. They reached Rosemere at 10. The house remained under limited county guard after the fire, but Malcolm's servants had returned. Catherine entered through the main doors, with the magistrate's written permission. She found the morning room overturned. Books covered the floor, drawers had been emptied, cushions cut open, and the fireplace grate searched. The recipe book was gone. Lucy began to cry. "He found it." "No," Catherine said. "He found the book. We do not yet know whether he found the certificate." She examined the empty space on the shelf. A line of dust showed where the book had stood for years. Beside it lay a torn strip of faded blue leather from the binding. Mr. Martin picked it up. The certificate was sewn into the back cover. If the binding has been torn, he has it. A servant found tied inside the pantry reported that Malcolm arrived before dawn, searched the morning room, and left toward London carrying a leather folio. He had a 2-hour lead. The group returned to the courtyard, but Catherine stopped beside Malcolm's abandoned carriage. One rear wheel had recently been repaired. A small brass plate on the axle bore the mark of a Rosemere wheelwright. "Malcolm did not take this carriage," she said. The servant shook his head. "He hired a post-chaise. Then why repair his own vehicle during the night?" Mr. Martin understood. To move something before he left, they searched beneath the seat and discovered a hidden compartment. Inside were fragments of blue leather, sewing thread, and a page torn from the recipe book. Malcolm had opened the binding there. Catherine examined the thread. The stitches had been cut, but no legal certificate remained. Sebastian said, "Then he has it. Perhaps." Catherine studied the surviving page. Her mother's recipe for almond biscuits ended halfway down. Beneath it was a handwritten note. For Catherine, when she is old enough to question every total, the first letters of the following 7 lines spelled a single word: chapel. Catherine remembered the private chapel where she and Sebastian married. Her mother had once placed a memorial plaque there. The recipe book contained instructions, Catherine said, not the certificate. Her mother had anticipated that the binding might be searched. The true document was hidden beneath the memorial plaque inside the chapel. They rode there immediately. Catherine removed the small brass screws holding her mother's plaque to the wall. Behind it lay a flat oilskin packet bearing the original trust seal. Mr. Martin authenticated the release certificate. The magistrate recorded its discovery, sealed it in a new envelope, and signed across every edge. The fragile proof was finally secure. Sebastian stared at Catherine's mother's careful instructions. "Your family called your counting an obsession," he said. "Yet your records kept the villages functioning, exposed Crane, and preserved the trust. My mother understood that numbers reveal what powerful people prefer to hide, and I treated that ability as manipulation when it challenged me." Catherine met his eyes. "You treated me as trustworthy only while my intelligence served you." He had no answer. The chapel door suddenly slammed shut. Rowan pulled at it, but an iron bar had been dropped across the outside. A pistol fired through the narrow window. The magistrate fell, wounded in the shoulder, and the sealed certificate slipped from his hand. A gloved arm reached through the broken pane and seized the envelope. By the time Rowan forced the door open, the attacker had mounted a waiting horse. Catherine ran into the churchyard. Malcolm sat in the saddle holding the original release certificate. He tore the envelope open, smiled at the legal seal, and rode toward London. He now possessed the one document the bank required, and less than 2 hours remained before the trust became his. Catherine reached the London bank at 11:47. Malcolm was already inside. He stood beside the manager's desk with the original release certificate, Sir Alistair Crane's ruling, and the Vale Guardian's seal arranged before him. 2 clerks were counting drafts, representing nearly the entire balance of Catherine's inheritance. "Stop the transfer," Catherine ordered. The bank manager rose. "Your Grace, the documents have been examined and found legally sufficient. The ruling declaring me incapable was written before Sir Alistair examined me. That allegation must be decided by the Commission. I have records proving Crane accepted payments from my brother." Malcolm smiled. The records, she means, were stolen from Rosemere and altered by a dismissed clerk. Mr. Martin placed the account boxes on the desk. "These are the originals." The manager opened the first box, but before he could examine it, a clerk entered, carrying an urgent message from the county court. The schoolhouse had been attacked. One copy of the payment trail had been taken from the court messenger. Another had burned when Malcolm's men set fire to the school. The third copy, hidden beneath the foundation stone, was missing, and Lucy had disappeared. Catherine gripped the edge of the desk. Malcolm leaned closer. "You should have left your maid out of this." "What have you done with her?" "I have done nothing." Perhaps she fled after realizing that her father's fraud would be exposed. Mr. Martin lunged toward him, but Rowan held the older man back. The bank manager closed the account box. "Until these accusations are formally resolved, I cannot reject a commission ruling bearing valid seals." Catherine pointed toward the original records. "You have the evidence before you. I have documents provided by interested parties on both sides." The last draft was placed inside Malcolm's leather folio. At noon, the transfer was completed. Catherine's inheritance no longer belonged to her trust. The money had been divided among 3 foreign accounts controlled by Rose Trading. If Malcolm reached Dover, he could convert the drafts and send the funds beyond immediate recovery. For the moment, he had won. He turned toward Catherine with a formal bow. "You may keep the title you acquired so cleverly. I shall keep what our mother should never have left you." Sebastian stepped into his path. The money passed through Ashford's accounts. "I will have every draft frozen. The Commission has already suspended your financial authority because I refuse to admit how you gained access." Sebastian turned toward the bank manager, and the witnesses gathered near the doors. "I signed blank authorizations and placed them in the hands of a secretary recommended by Lord Malcolm. I did so after receiving a letter I suspected might not reflect my wife's true wishes." Catherine looked at him sharply. Until that moment, she believed he had accepted the farewell as genuine from the beginning. Sebastian continued. "The letter lacked a private mark Catherine placed on every personal message to me. I noticed its absence." The room became painfully quiet. Catherine's voice was barely audible. "You knew something was wrong. I knew enough to ask, but you did not." "No. Why?" "Because I was angry that you appeared to regret marrying me. Believing the letter allowed me to punish you without hearing what you might say." The truth was worse than gullibility. Sebastian had not merely been deceived. He had recognized a contradiction and chosen the version that justified his pride. His admission damaged more than his marriage. By confessing that he knowingly acted upon a doubtful document and signed blank authorizations in anger, he gave the Commission grounds to prolong the suspension of his estate authority. Sebastian removed the Ashford signet from his hand. "I will place every unentailed property I own under independent trusteeship as security for Catherine's stolen inheritance. The bank may freeze Rose Trading's drafts against that guarantee." The manager stared at the ring. "The value of those properties may exceed the disputed trust. That is not the question. If the accusations fail, you could lose control for years." "I understand." Malcolm's satisfaction faltered. Sebastian signed the guarantee before witnesses. The bank manager immediately issued notices, suspending payment on the 3 drafts, until a public commission hearing could determine whether Crane's ruling was lawful. The money was no longer safe in Catherine's hands, but neither could Malcolm take it out of England. Sebastian's action protected the inheritance. It did not repair what he had just admitted. Catherine waited until they were outside the bank. "You saw that the farewell letter was wrong." "Yes." "And you denounced me anyway." "Yes." She struck him across the face. Sebastian did not move. "I spent 92 days wondering how perfectly Malcolm had copied my hand," she said. "I believed the forgery fooled you, but you saw the missing mark. I have no defense. You chose to wound me because asking one question might have wounded you." "I know." "No. You know the sentence. You do not know what it cost to hear footsteps outside that locked room every night, and wonder whether my husband had decided I deserved to disappear." Sebastian's eyes filled, but Catherine turned away before his grief could become another burden placed upon her. She would work with him to recover the trust. Nothing more was promised. The public commission hearing was scheduled for the following morning. Sir Alistair Crane submitted a new report claiming Catherine's accusations, escape from custody, and appearance at the bank proved a pattern of dangerous obsession. Malcolm produced the original release certificate and insisted he had acted only after Catherine's lawful incapacity was established. Without Lucy, the copied payment trail lacked its final witness. Her father could authenticate the books, but Malcolm would argue he invented the entries to protect his daughter. That evening, Rowan found Lucy alive inside an abandoned warehouse near the river. She had escaped through a coal chute after overhearing Malcolm's men discuss the commission, but her relief lasted only moments. "They know about the numbered guardianship forms," she told Catherine. Sir Alistair ordered every remaining copy burned. Harcourt's medical case had also disappeared from county custody. The direct connection between Crane's private office and Malcolm's payments had been destroyed. Catherine sat inside a rented room with the account books spread before her. Sebastian remained outside at her request. She compared the false cottage repairs, Crane's 4 payments, and the dates of Harcourt's fabricated examinations. Every series followed the same pattern: an initial payment, 2 payments during confinement, and 1 final payment after a ruling. Yet Crane's sequence contained 5 entries, not 4. The last was only £1. Catherine had dismissed it as a copying error, because the amount was too small to be a bribe. Now, she remembered her mother's instruction hidden inside the recipe book. Question every total. She added the payments again. The 4 large transfers totaled £800. The final pound did not belong to Crane's fee. It had been paid to the printer who produced his numbered forms, a legal requirement used to register every official commission document. That £1 payment created an independent commercial record. A printer might burn Crane's remaining forms, but he would keep his own order book to prove who owed him money. Catherine sent Rowan to the address, printed inside Harcourt's case. He returned at midnight with the printer, Mr. Elias Webb, and a ledger showing that Sir Alistair ordered guardianship forms numbered 417C 6 months earlier. The order specified that every form be delivered to Malcolm Vale at Rosemere. Crane could claim the forms were ordinary stationery. Malcolm could claim he never received them. The ledger alone would not prove they used one to fabricate Catherine's medical history. Then Webb revealed that Crane demanded a special watermark inside the paper, a small falcon visible only when held against strong light. Catherine remembered the commission ruling declaring her incapable. It had been delivered before Crane examined her and remained in the bank's evidence room. If it carried the Falcon watermark, the ruling had been prepared from Crane's private forms and delivered through Malcolm's network before the examination occurred. But Catherine needed both men to deny that connection before revealing it. She sent a message requesting that the original ruling remain sealed until the hearing. At dawn, Sebastian entered only after she permitted him. "Have you found a way to prove it?" he asked. "Yes. How can I help?" "You will say nothing unless I ask about the farewell letter." Pain crossed his face. "You intend to reveal what I did." "I intend to reveal every choice that allowed Malcolm to succeed." Sebastian bowed his head. "Then I will answer truthfully." Catherine closed the printer's ledger. At the hearing, she would place the sealed ruling before Malcolm and Crane. She would ask each man whether he had ever seen paper bearing the Falcon watermark. Their scheme could survive missing records, frightened witnesses, and destroyed forms. It could not survive a verifiable lie told before the entire commission. The commission chamber was crowded before the doors opened. News of the hidden duchess, the burned records, and the Duke of Ashford's frozen estates had spread across London. Reporters filled the rear benches, while Rosemere tenants stood beside servants from Ashford House. Catherine's future would no longer be decided behind a locked door. She entered without Sebastian. He followed several paces behind and took his seat among the witnesses. Malcolm sat beside Sir Alistair Crane at the opposing table. The original release certificate rested before them, along with Catherine's forged farewell letter and the medical ruling declaring her incapable. Crane addressed the commission first. He described Catherine as intelligent but dangerously suspicious. According to him, her talent for numbers allowed her to construct elaborate patterns from ordinary transactions. "Lady Catherine believes every incorrect total reveals a conspiracy," he said. "Every disagreement becomes persecution. Even her own husband became part of her imagined plot when he refused to support her accusations." Malcolm rose with practiced reluctance. "My sister has suffered greatly. I sought only to protect her. When she became convinced that our family intended to steal her inheritance, I arranged medical care and removed her from the pressures of London." "You locked her inside an upstairs room," one commissioner said. "For her safety." She repeatedly threatened to run away. Lucy stood abruptly. Her door had no handle on the inside. The chairman ordered silence, but allowed Malcolm to continue. He presented Catherine's farewell letter as proof that she entered seclusion willingly. He then produced Sebastian's signed financial authorizations and claimed the Duke helped Catherine move money through Ashford House. Finally, Malcolm placed the release certificate before the commission. "As Catherine's lawful guardian, appointed after an independent medical examination, I acted within my duty when I protected the trust from further misuse." Catherine waited until every accusation had been entered into the official record. Then she rose. "You claim my confinement began because Sir Alistair found me incapable." "Yes," Malcolm replied. She turned to Crane. "When did you first examine me?" "Yesterday morning, at the hunting lodge." "And when did you prepare your ruling?" "After the examination." The clerk recorded both answers. Catherine placed Harcourt's appointment book on the evidence table. Dr. Harcourt originally claimed, "He treated me for nearly a year. Several dates in his record place me in Rosemere. when I was publicly seen elsewhere. Crane lifted one shoulder. Harcourt's poor record-keeping has no bearing on my conclusion. It has bearing on who paid him. Mr. Martin brought forward the 3 original account boxes rescued from Fenwick Mill. He identified the green sealing sand placed beneath the wax of every false entry. The commission examined payments made to E.H., Dr. Harcourt's mother, within 1 day of each fabricated medical visit. Malcolm's solicitor objected. Mr. Martin admits he wrote these entries himself. He could have added the green sand later. Catherine nodded. That is possible, which is why the account books are not my only evidence. The 3 cottage widows testified next. Each produced a repair notice marked paid, though no repair had occurred. The draft numbers on their notices matched the numbers in the original accounts. One widow held up a piece of rotten roof timber. Lord Malcolm's book says he spent £200 repairing my cottage. This is what remains above my bed. The payment had left Rosemere, but it had not reached the tenant. The bank manager traced the missing money through Rose Trading and into an account called Falcon Consulting. Catherine faced Crane. Are you the Falcon? No. Have you ever received payment from Lord Malcolm? Never. Did you arrange Dr. Harcourt's appointment? No. Crane's answers were immediate and absolute. Catherine turned toward Malcolm. Did you ever receive numbered guardianship forms from Sir Alister's private office? No. Did you pay a printer to prepare them? No. Have you ever seen paper bearing a Falcon watermark? Malcolm glanced toward Crane before answering. No. The clerk recorded each denial. Catherine called Elias Webb. The printer carried his business ledger beneath one arm. He testified that Crane's office ordered forms numbered 417C 6 months earlier. The delivery instruction named Malcolm Vale at Rosemere. Crane laughed. A printer's book can be altered as easily as an estate ledger. Webb produced his quarterly tax receipt. The £1 payment for the order had been declared before Catherine's confinement began. The tax office held an independent duplicate. The timing made later alteration nearly impossible. Malcolm leaned toward his solicitor. His confidence had begun to crack, but the decisive link remained missing. The forms could have been ordered for legitimate use, unless Catherine proved that Crane's private paper was used to declare her incapable. The payment trail established association rather than conspiracy. Catherine asked the commission clerk to bring forward the sealed ruling. The envelope remained unopened, exactly as she had requested. Before examining it, she called Sebastian. The Duke of Ashford entered the witness chair without his signet or ceremonial chain. Catherine placed the forged farewell letter before him. When did you first notice that this message differed from my genuine letters? The day I received it. A murmur spread through the chamber. What was missing? You placed 2 short lines beneath the final letter of your name whenever you wrote something intended only for me. This signature carried one. Yet you publicly accepted the letter as genuine. Yes. Why? Sebastian looked directly at the commissioners. Because I was humiliated by what I believed Catherine had written. Doubting the letter required me to seek an explanation. Anger allowed me to punish her instead. Did my family force you to denounce me? No. Did Malcolm force you to surrender my belongings? No. Did anyone prevent you from riding to Rosemere before my final letter arrived? No. Each answer separated Malcolm's crimes from Sebastian's choices. The Duke had been manipulated, but he had not been innocent. Catherine continued. Who appointed Mr. Pritchard to manage the Ashford House accounts? I did, upon Malcolm's recommendation. Who signed the blank authorizations? I did. Who refused to admit that fact when it might have prevented my second confinement? I did. Sebastian's voice remained steady, though every answer damaged his reputation and strengthened the case for keeping his estates under trusteeship. Catherine looked at him for a long moment. No further questions. Sebastian returned to his seat. He did not ask what his honesty had earned from her. Malcolm's solicitor stood. His Grace has admitted that he recognized supposed signs on his wife's letters and signed incomplete financial papers. Is it not possible that he and the Duchess manufactured this entire scandal to avoid responsibility for their own misconduct? Catherine answered calmly. If that were true, the ruling declaring me incapable would have been prepared on ordinary commission paper after Crane's examination. She turned toward the commissioners. Sir Alister has sworn that he never sent private forms to Malcolm. Malcolm has sworn that he never saw paper bearing a Falcon watermark. Mr. Webb has sworn that such paper was created exclusively for Crane's numbered guardianship orders. The chairman broke the seal on the evidence envelope. Inside lay the ruling delivered to the hunting lodge before Catherine's examination had ended. Crane stood. That document has been replaced. No one touched it after the bank manager sealed it, Catherine said. The manager confirmed the seal and identified his signature across the envelope's edge. A clerk carried a lamp to the center of the chamber. Catherine took the ruling by its corners and slowly raised it toward the light. At first, the paper appeared blank, except for the written declaration. Then a shadow began to emerge inside its fibers. The outline had two wings, a curved beak, and a small crown above its head. The commissioners leaned forward as the hidden watermark became visible. The Falcon watermark filled the center of the page. Sir Alistair Crane sat down without being asked. Malcolm's solicitor stared at the ruling, then quietly closed his case. The paper proved more than an association. Crane's private form had been delivered to Rosemere months earlier, carried the same identifying number as the payment hidden in the cottage repairs, and had been used to declare Catherine incapable before he examined her. The commission chairman turned toward Crane. You testified that this ruling was prepared after your examination. Crane's face had lost all color. I may have drafted preliminary notes. This is not a draft. It is a signed medical judgment. I was informed of Lady Catherine's condition by Dr. Harcourt. You also testified that you did not arrange Harcourt's appointment. Crane looked toward Malcolm. Malcolm did not return the glance. The alliance broke beneath the weight of its own denials. Crane claimed Malcolm had pressured him. Malcolm claimed the physicians acted independently. Harcourt, brought from county custody, blamed both men and offered to identify every payment in exchange for leniency. Catherine allowed them to speak until each contradiction entered the record. Then she presented the complete sequence. Malcolm intercepted her journey to Ashford and confined her at Rosemere. He forged the farewell letter, knowing Sebastian's pride might prevent him from investigating. While Catherine remained hidden, Pritchard placed blank documents before the Duke and used his genuine signatures to move money through Ashford House. Mr. Martin was forced to alter Rosemere's accounts. Harcourt created a false history of mental illness. Crane prepared the final ruling before meeting Catherine. The fire destroyed visible records, while Malcolm used Catherine's supposed instability to explain every accusation she made. When her real letter reached Sebastian, Malcolm planned to blame the Duke for the fire and present their disputed marriage as part of a joint financial scheme. One forged letter had separated husband and wife. Sebastian's decision to believe it without investigation gave Malcolm everything else he needed. The commission invalidated Crane's medical ruling immediately. Malcolm's guardianship authority was revoked, and the transfer of Catherine's inheritance was declared fraudulent. The bank froze every Rose trading account, while the original trust was restored under independent management, chosen by Catherine. Malcolm was taken into custody for unlawful confinement, financial fraud, forgery, arson, abduction, and conspiracy to deprive Catherine of her property. Crane and Harcourt were barred from medical practice pending criminal trial. Pritchard was arrested before reaching Dover. None of them received absolution by blaming another. Catherine asked the commission for one final order. The cottage repair funds stolen in her name would be restored first. Every widow and tenant whose home appeared in Malcolm's false accounts would receive the money before Catherine took control of the remaining inheritance. The chairman approved it. Mr. Martin was publicly cleared of theft and appointed to supervise the restored trust with his daughter as his assistant. Lucy accepted only after Catherine promised that the position came with wages, not gratitude in place of payment. The commission then addressed Sebastian. His blank signatures had enabled the transfers, and his refusal to explain them had delayed the investigation. The independent trusteeship over his unentailed properties would remain for 1 year. Sebastian accepted the consequence without appeal. Before the chamber emptied, he requested permission to speak. He stood where Malcolm had accused Catherine of madness and faced the reporters who once printed his denunciation of her. 3 months ago, I publicly called my wife a fortune hunter, he said. That accusation was false. I recognized that the letter used against her contained a contradiction, but I chose not to examine it. Catherine was not absent because she abandoned our marriage. She was imprisoned while I protected my pride. He did not call himself another victim. He did not ask Catherine to confirm his regret. I travelled 3 days after reading her final letter. That journey did not make me loyal. Loyalty would have meant seeking the truth after the first. The reporters recorded every word. Sebastian withdrew his challenge to Catherine's control of her income, restored every possession removed from Ashford House, and purchased a London residence in her name through trustees. The house would remain hers regardless of whether their marriage continued. Public harm received public correction. Material security came before forgiveness. 6 months later, Catherine lived at Vale House in London. She transformed the ground floor into an accounting office where women could receive help, examining marriage settlements, family trusts, and disputed inheritances. Lucy worked beside Mr. Martin at the largest desk, no longer hiding numbers inside the hems of dresses. The repaired cottages at Rosemere received new roofs before winter. Catherine visited Ashford only for scheduled meetings with the independent trustees. Sebastian never asked her to move back. He wrote once each week, but his letters contained no demands, declarations, or descriptions of his suffering. He reported what he had done, dismissed Pritchard's allies, corrected the tenant accounts, attended the trustees' meetings, and established a rule forbidding incomplete documents from receiving the Ashford seal. Catherine answered only when she wished. One rainy afternoon, a letter arrived without the ducal crest. Sebastian wrote that the anniversary of their private wedding was approaching. He asked whether she would permit him to visit the chapel not as a husband claiming his wife, but as a man requesting one honest conversation. At the bottom, he had left his name unsigned. Beside it were 2 empty lines. Catherine understood. He would not imitate her private mark or assume he still had the right to use it. She replied with 4 words. Thursday, 4 o'clock. Come alone. Sebastian arrived precisely on time. He had travelled from Ashford over 2 days, resting the horses rather than racing toward her in another dramatic gesture. He waited outside the chapel until Catherine opened the door. Inside, the afternoon light fell across the place where they had exchanged vows. Sebastian did not approach the altar. I once believed riding 3 days proved how much I loved you, he said. It only proved that I could act when fear became unbearable. I failed when love required patience, questions, and trust. Catherine studied him. I cannot return to the marriage we had. I know I may never live at Ashford House again. I know, and forgiveness, if it comes, will not erase what happened. I would not ask it to. He placed a folded document on the nearest pew. It granted permanent funding to Catherine's accounting office from his personal income. The agreement could not be withdrawn if she ended their relationship. You are still trying to give me something, she said. Yes, but not in exchange for you. That answer mattered. Not enough to restore the past, but enough to allow a future to remain possible. Catherine sat on the pew. You may write to me twice a week. Hope entered his face, carefully restrained. And may I visit? Once a month. As your husband? No. As a man attempting to become worthy of being one. Sebastian accepted the condition. Catherine took out the first forged farewell letter. For months, she had kept it as evidence of Malcolm's crime and Sebastian's failure. She held one corner over a candle. The flame consumed the false signature first, then the words that had separated them. Sebastian made no attempt to stop her. When only ash remained, Catherine opened her writing case and placed a blank sheet between them. If we begin again, she said. She wrote the first sentence, signed her name, and carefully drew 2 short lines beneath the final letter. Then she turned the page toward Sebastian and allowed him to read it. You may court me, but this time, ask before you believe.